Hey everybody, it's Mark, DoctorDeadwax here, and it's time for day 18 of the Inbox Challenge. And today's numbers were picked by Andreas, TheGrecianThunder. So Andreas, thanks for playing along. Now Andreas, when he picked the numbers, he subsequently made a very boastful statement that he had gone Fibonacci on my ass. And, well, let's examine that statement, shall we? These are the numbers that Andreas picked. And as you can see, well, a Fibonacci sequence is a series of numbers where the two numbers previously added together make the next number. So obviously the statement that Andreas has made is flawed because the first number is 7, and 7 and 13 does not make 21, it makes 20. So as a child of a teacher and a wife of a professor, let's grade this. Now, when I was in Catholic school, this is the grade that I would have got, because if any step of the way was wrong, you just got the math question wrong. Didn't matter how good your work was. Because if you actually look here, the 34 as a sum of 13 and 21, now that is an accurate statement. And the 55 as a sum of 34 and 21 is an accurate statement. However, because it's based on the flawed logic of the number 7 at the very beginning, it in actuality would have gotten 0. However, nowadays the education system is all about student success and rewarding them for anything that they did, even 1 minute % right, like showing up in school or knowing their name. So on that basis, we could mark this a different way, but we'd have to take the marks off for 7. And I guess, you know, we technically should take the marks off for 13 because it wouldn't have been 7 and 6 in the previous over here. But we're going to give them the 13 because, you know, it's Tuesday. And let me see, the 21, we're going to give them the 13 and the 21 because you got two numbers that added together to make 34. So that looks pretty good. That looks like, let's give that an 8 out of 10. So that's a strong A. Congratulations, Andres. You got a strong A. Today's beer is the Rifleman's Ration. And this is from the Historic Beers of Canada series from Black Creek Brewery in Toronto. And this is made with, this is not going to focus, is it? This is made with 100% Ontario-grown ingredients. So the hops and the barley and everything that's in the beer is grown here in Ontario locally. Now, the Rifleman's Ration, cheers, refers to, this is the beer, this is the recipe for the beer that was given to the soldiers on the Canadian side in the War of 1812. That was the war where we kicked America's ass. So, cheers. In actuality, it's about 3 miles from here was the farthest north the American Army got. And it was people who lived in my environs that pushed them back. No manifest destiny. It ain't happening. So let's grade Andreas ultimately on the quality of the product the flawed Fibonacci sequence of numbers has given us. The first one is a 12-inch from the Waterboys, and this is a 12-inch of, it has The Hole of the Moon, Spirit, Medicine Jack, and The Girl in the Swing, which was recorded live in Los Angeles. This is, The Hole of the Moon is from the album This Is the Sea. And I bought this at a show, I think $1 or $2. Now ultimately, I'm a massive Waterboys fan. Yet I've never been happy with anything that they've ever released on vinyl. I found it to be always very compressed, and I've been very disappointed. Also cool about this one is it has a Peter Dunn's vinyl museum plastic inner, which is really cool. This is back when there were 3 locations at 402 Bloor Street, which was on Bloor, and then 355 Yonge, which was a few doors up from Sam the Record Man and A&A, and then 2491 Lakeshore, which I assume was somewhere in the west end of Toronto. This has a vanity label on one side and the kind of credits label on the other. And so Now the interesting thing is this is a UK pressing and not a Canadian, which every Waterboys product I have currently is a Canadian press. Now this sounds fantastic. This record has Tim Tom in the dead wax. I don't know if I've talked about Tim Tom before. Let me see if I can get it to show. There it is, at about 11 o'clock there. There it says Tim Tom. So Tim Tom is Tim Young. He was a mastering engineer in the United Kingdom. So ultimately what I have come to discover is that I need to find myself UK pressings of all the Waterboys records, because as it stands right now, I enjoy my digital pressings, like my digital CDs, much better than I enjoy my Waterboys on vinyl. So the Waterboys are just a great band. I've talked about them before. They went through all kinds of the big sound phase and the Irish folk revival phase, and this is excellent. And wow, there's true definition in the music. The bass is large and powerful. The mids are strong and clear. It's great mastering. Next up is Fraser, MacPherson, and Oliver Gannon. I Don't Know About You, Sackville 4009. Now, Sackville Records is a label out of Toronto, I believe, and primarily, I think, or maybe exclusively known for putting out jazz releases, although they might have put out some blues releases. I'm not 100% sure of that. And I don't think there was anything overly interesting in the dead wax. I wondered if there might have been, but there wasn't. What can I say about this? So what kind of jazz is this? This is a very straightforward, safe kind of jazz. Let's say it's all the songs are kind of standards from the swing era, and they would be performed maybe in a West Coast bop style. I would say Fraser MacPherson has, say, the musical stylings almost of a Zoot Sims, and Oliver Gannon would not be quite up to the Bucky Pizzarelli style, like caliber of guitar playing, but very close, very good guitar player. This is an unusual record in that it was the first non-chamber music recorded in a room exclusively for chamber music, in which drums were not allowed, and the reason why was because it was just the two of them. It's excellent music. Sackville recordings can be competent to surprisingly brilliant, and I think this would fall into the latter category. Typically, they're Canadian jazz musicians who the rest of the world hasn't heard of, who are actually very, very good musicians. And these are two examples. Fraser MacPherson was the kind of house guy at a place called The Cave in Vancouver for years, like 8 years, and he'd been with the previous house band before that, and he ran the other, like, subsequently ran the house band for 8 years. And for example, Tony Bennett said, I'm going up to Vancouver to play like a week at this place called The Cave, to Duke Ellington. He said, so who do I need to bring with me? And Duke Ellington said, you don't need to bring nobody with you, because they got it under control up there. And that was in reference to Fraser. Now, Oliver Gannon is still performing music today. Fraser died in 1993. Oliver Gannon is still performing music, but he has been mostly involved for the past 18 years with some sort of software called Band in a Box or something like that. And this record won the Juno for Best Jazz Album the year it was released. I think it was 1983. Now, the Juno is the Canadian equivalent of the Grammys. So I know, it's just an award. They're basically ultimately Grammys, Junos. They're kind of meaningless. But also, Oliver Gannon, the guitar player, he was one of the founders of a Canadian kind of jazz fusion band called Pacific Salt, and I believe Astral Traveler has talked about Pacific Salt in one or two of his videos in the past. So that's kind of the lineage and the heritage of this. This is excellent music. It's very safe. It's not pushing any boundaries. It's great dinner music, great background music. if you like this kind of jazz specifically, it's a great example of it. So I'm going to keep that, and I'm going to highly recommend that to anybody. The next record is Petra. This Means War. I don't know what Petra is. I never knew what Petra was until now. But I have like 5 or 6 Petra records in the inbox. I don't know why I keep buying them, considering I don't know what they are, but I see them and they're always dirt cheap. This was like $1 somewhere. I think somebody might have told me once they were kind of proggy, and that just locked into my brain, and so I just kept buying them without listening to them yet. And this comes with the inner sleeve with the lyrics and everything on it. Some cool pencil and ink style work there, and this is a attractive Christian rock band. Now, Christian rock in the vein of well, first, this is on Sparrow Star Song Records, and oops, and this is the label. Nothing overly interesting or incredible about the label, but there you go. So what kind of music is it? I mean, it's Christian, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's Christian rock. It's kind of heavy. It kind of has this Christian Bon Jovi / Def Leppard sound is the way I would put it together, and it's pretty well done. I mean, musically, pretty competent band. Lyrically, you got to. If you're not interested in Christian music or anything like that, you got to take that. Christian music is not anything I'm particularly interested in, but I'm always interested in good music, and this is not really music that appeals to me. But I could see if this appealed to you, if this was your kind of thing. This is well done. And these guys were apparently huge, and they had like a 20-plus year career, hence my having 5 of their records. And they had a couple different singers. This is from, I think, this 3rd vocalist's phase, and this was from a guy who was in another band who'd quit rock and roll and was working in a factory, but had been born again and had given up drugs and alcohol, and they asked him to come join them. Now on this record, in the Deadwax, it says Future Disc. And if your record says Future Disc Systems, or FDS, that means it was mastered at Future Disc Systems in Hollywood. So that's one we haven't talked about in the past. And finally, the last record. The last record is Deep Purple, Who Do We Think We Are? And this is a Canadian pressing. And the title comes from an article in a newspaper where they did a performance. I think they might have done something with a little bit of a classical bent to it, and the reviewer said, "Who do they think they are?" So Deep Purple went with that, and then included on the inner sleeve like all kinds of bad reviews. So that's where the title comes from. This is a Canadian Unipack, so inevitably it's a trifold because the glue failed, as it always does. And this is interesting here. Oops. Unipack, Canadian patent, printed in Canada. So I'm wondering, is the Unipack one of Canada's gifts to the world? So besides Celine Dion, we have brought you the Unipack. Probably the second best thing we've given to the world after the beaver. This is on a Canadian green label Warner, olive green Warner, which would make it an original pressing. This is from 1973. Nothing special in the Deadwax, except that this is the first pressing. It's in pretty good condition. It's got a couple scratches on it. It ticks in a few places. And as the record goes, it's okay. It's not great. I'm not a huge Deep Purple fan. I got this for free out of a box of records that were given to me. This is one of the ones I pulled aside. Woman from Tokyo's on here. I guess that's the big hit. Interesting is Mary Long, which just sounds completely like Smoke on the Water, which is weird. Super Trooper's kind of a little bit trippy, and the rest of it's okay. Not a great record. Maybe if you're a Deep Purple fan, it's amazing. I don't know. Doesn't really work for me. And so that's it. Those are today's records. So this wasn't bad. And this is not my bag. And this is excellent. And this, I finally found Waterboys I can listen to. So which one of these are we going to go with? We're going to go with this. Total winner of the day. Anyways, thanks Andreas for playing along and having fun. And check out the Rifleman's Ration if you're in Canada. It's an interesting beer. It's very low on the gas, malty with a nice kind of slightly fruity aftertaste. It's an interesting darker ale. That's kind of what I would classify it as. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day. Keep the record spinning.